Good day, all. Welcome again to the TIE Sustainability Summit 2021. We've heard some wonderful sessions today. We've heard about sustainability in the boardroom. We've heard about meatless meat startups and how they're changing the food industry. We've heard amazing things about waste management and how it is a gold mine. Next up, we have an amazing session. It is a panel discussion followed by a keynote speech as well. This one is called Building Sustainable Organizations, and it is moderated by our very own Mr. Viiveck Verma. Mr. Viiveck Verma is a TIE Hyderabad charter member, and he is a founder of UpSurge Global, which is a management consulting firm. He is also a venture partner with Venture Catalysts. Mr. Viiveck Verma is also mentored to a number of startups. He is an advisor to brands, and he is a business strategy consultant as well. Viiveck is considered as a very trusted leader and change agent with a superior track record of motivating people right from the grassroots level and taking subordinates into confidence for implementing new and innovative ideas. Mr. Viiveck, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ashrit, for those wonderful words in introduction. And it is a great pleasure to be hosting this session where we are going to spend the next 50 odd minutes talking about building sustainable organizations. And I'm very pleased to have an outstanding panel who's joining me to start talking a little about this. And then maybe towards the end, we will have another gentleman talk to us about his experience as a keynote at the end. The idea of this session today is really to go and explore and hear different perspectives on what does it take to build organizations which are sustainable. Where do we bring sustainability into the core mainstream? And we are going to be hearing three very, very different perspectives around this. With that, without taking too much time, let me start by introducing the panel who's going to be in conversation with me talking about building sustainable organizations. Let me start by my first speaker on the panel, Mr. Ashish Gayakwad. Mr. Ashish Gayakwad is the Managing Director for Honeywell Automation India. He is someone who spent a long time in the corporate world and is going to spend some time today talking to us about building sustainable organizations from a corporate perspective. The second speaker on our panel today is Ms. Purnima Khandelwal. She is the founder and CEO of INI Farms, and she is today going to be talking to us about building sustainability into organizations from a very successful business that she runs, which is around agriculture, a lot of transformation, a lot of change that she is bringing in her own manner. And last but not the least, Mr. Amit, Bhatia, who runs, amongst many things, an outstanding organization called Aspire Impact. And I'm particularly pleased because I am also myself an Aspire Fellow. And like I said, amongst other things, Amit runs a fellowship program called the Aspire Fellows, where about 200 leading people in the impact space are part of this program. So Amit is going to today talk about his perspective from being an ecosystem builder, being a person who's really working at the macro level to see where this transformation is happening from building sustainable organizations. So let me start with you, Amit. So there's this whole fashionable word, ESG, sustainability, impact. We keep hearing these words, and a lot of times people use them interchangeably, sometimes quite loosely. What do these mean? What does it mean for the entrepreneurial world? So would like to hear from you as an ecosystem player that what do these words mean? What does audience take away from these ESG, sustainability, impact?
Thank you, Viiveck. And I'll just give a 30-second background to your viewers to just say that what we're experiencing is not just the advent of this culture of sustainability, but a whole underlying system of capitalism is changing. Now, whether we call it capitalism 2.0 or impact capitalism, but think of it this way. If 19th century was all about return and 20th century about risk and return, 21st century is about risk, return, and impact. And in this construct, every corporation and every investor and governments and policymakers are quickly moving to a three-step impact continuum where ESG, sustainability, and impact are the respective three steps. And they are being called the ABC of this impact movement. And prior to Aspire, I ran an independent multilateral born out of G7, brought 32 countries into this, and we had 2,500 biggest investors agree on this classifications. And this is the ABC of impact. A, that is ESG, meaning avoid harm. So companies being responsible about their emissions, effluents, carbon footprint, about diversity and inclusion. B, the second step is about benefiting all stakeholders. Think about renewable energy. If the air is clean, the rich or the poor both are going to breathe it, whether it's sustainable agriculture, sustainable fisheries, forestry, all those businesses are on this second step. And the third and final step of this continuum is impact, which is C, contribute to solution. So if Narayan Health can get the cost of a heart surgery down from $2,500 to $800, so more humble people can afford it, you're contributing to solutions. If EdTech can bring down the cost, or clean tech can bring down the cost, you are helping solve problems that exist in the world. And I think it is very important to demystify this world, that the journey is on for people, corporations, investors, everyone to move to this continuum. I'd also say there's about $120 trillion of financial assets under management in the world. 60 trillion has already moved to this impact continuum. So if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, you should be thinking, well, next time I'm out there raising money, my investor are going to ask me, do I publish an ESG report or a sustainability report or impact report? They are going to start putting that in shareholder agreements, because they in turn need to report to their LPs about the impact their money delivers. So it's very important that whether you're an investor or you're an entrepreneur, you see this world in a way that it is going to be legally mandated very soon to be somewhere on the continuum and be annually reporting, publishing your ESG sustainability or impact statements. And this is what this movement is all about.
Fantastic. And I hope more power to you and more power to players in this space, because I think the world needs a lot more of impact measurement, of making it mainstream. So I think a wonderful work that you're doing there, Amit, and we'll come back to you. With that, we'll move to you, Purnima, and maybe you can start by talking to us a little about the work you do at INI Farms, and then also talk to us that from your experience as an entrepreneur, what did it take for you to build INI Farms as a sustainable entity? What measures, what pointers do you have for the others? So maybe you can start by first telling us what you do at the INI Farms, and then what did it take you to build that?
Sure, Viiveck. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here talking about INI Farms and its little role in the whole sustainability movement, right? So we started INI Farms way back in 2009, and those were very, very early days as far as this whole sector is concerned. Amit spoke about investors valuing impact and sustainability and ESG today. When we started our journey in 2009, we were very fortunate to have an early investor like Avishkar, who came and put money in us purely because of the impact that we were creating. But just to step back a little bit and talk about what we do at INI Farms. So, when we looked at this space way back in 2009, we realized that there were very real problems to be solved for this sector. And some of those were around, wastages, which is still very central, right? When we talk of food wastages, we're talking about anything between, a 25 to a 45, 50% food wastage in the entire supply chain. We're talking about food safety. These were real issues which continue to be issues as we speak. But way back in 2009, when we were evaluating the sector ourselves, we realized that some of these things were so central to the sector. The smallhold farmer in India, right? So if you're wanting to do anything around food, eventually you have to work with that farmer, who's working in different parts of the countries, and he's managing his own half an acre to 2.5 acre of land. So we found our passion, our calling in this sector. But with these as the central issues, we figured that we had to have a value chain approach to this business. So we realized we can't get into multiple products. We pick up specific fruits, and agriculture is a part of GDP. So we very quickly focused down and narrowed into specific fruit crops that we wanted to play in. So we decided to work with farmers on the back end on specific fruit crops, define very specific interventions that we are going to make on productivity, on quality enhancement to ensure that, then the product that we take to the market, which is the retailer or the consumer, is paying for the effort that the farmer is putting on his field. So that is the way we approached it. So we had an integrated approach to this entire business. We said we're going to work with farmers, we'll manage the complete supply chain, we'll get as close to a consumer as possible, which is primarily the retailers. And recently, of course, we've launched our own D2C offering, which is a step further. But that's what we do at INI. Pomegranate, banana, grapes is the new crop on the block, but that's what this organization is all about. Coming to your question of what was it that we did at INI to make our own organization sustainable. So Viiveck, for us, when we started, Pankaj and I started this, and the core philosophy and principle was, what business value is sustainability or impact going to create for the organization? So any effort that is going towards sustainability or impact eventually has to translate into a business outcome. It has to translate into value for the different stakeholders who are a part of this whole process. I'll pick up two examples in our own journey, right? Everybody talks about traceability today. When we looked at traceability, we realized that, it's about food wastage. It's about food safety that one is talking about, right? It did not have a direct impact on the consumer at that point of time. Today, traceability is a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. But we realized that this is a value driver when I'm looking at food wastage, because anything that goes wrong in my supply chain, I'm able to trace back to the source of the problem, set it right, so that next time we don't have the same issue cropping up, and therefore, take care of the wastages in the supply chain. So that was the value driver that we figured traceability has for us as an organization, right? It was not a value that was directly linked to a consumer benefit at that point in time. But today, it has moved to a level where we are able to provide complete visibility to a consumer on where his food is coming from. That's a very different value proposition today versus, 10 years back. But we figured, what is it that traceability is delivering? The second is around contract farming, right? So you hear about the contract farming model, and there has been such a lot of hue and cry with the recent farm laws as well. We figured out that the contract farming model, the way it was prescribed, was really not sustainable, because one or the other party would always have an incentive to break out of that contract. We figured out that we have to look at it differently. We have to look at farmer as a partner and a stakeholder in the entire process. We said that we are going to provide a premium for the quality that he produces, because then I'm able to take his produce to the market, get a premium in the market, and pass on a part of that value to the farmer, right? That is then a sustainable model. Just going and telling farmer ki, you give me what you produce, this is the price that is locked in today, does not help. It's not a sustainable model. Somebody or the other will go out of it. That is how we looked at sustainability. So for us, it was around productivity, quality enhancement, delivering better product at the front end, and then passing on that benefit to the farmer. So I stop here. These are two examples that I thought I could share with the group here to really, share and
highlight,
tell you, how we have looked at sustainability at INI.
Very clearly, Purnima, as it turns out that for you, sustainability was really at the core, and congratulations, because you were in a certain sense ahead of the curve. Like you rightly said, traceability is another buzzword in addition to the first few that I posed to Amit. ESG, sustainability, traceability, and very soon we'll use technologies like blockchain. And I'm sure you may be thinking about some of those already in that phase. So congratulations and thank you for giving us that perspective. One last question, we move ahead. I&I, what does that stand for? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Viiveck, when we started way back in 2003, we started actually as a consulting firm, and I&I in those days meant insight and intellect. It has continued as we got into our second venture around horticulture, but that's what I&I is about, insight and intellect. But
Fantastic.
More in the consulting construct than in the farming construct.
But you're bringing it in the farming context
yes.
too, so congratulations.
And that's why we decided to retain it. It's not very obvious, but to us, it made a lot of sense.
Fantastic. And we'll come back to you, Purnima, with some more questions. But moving on to you, Ashish, I want to kind of ask you this, that, sometimes people wonder that is that a tight rope for someone who's into a commercial organization, a large one, a multinational like yours, as the managing director of Honeywell India Automation. How do you do this walk between the commercial matrix? You have a bunch of shareholders, the board who's gunning after you for the top line, the bottom line, and then there is this whole world who's also asking you about sustainability. How do you build that? So talk to us a little about this. Is it a tightrope walk? And if not, then how do you manage that?
Great. First of all, good morning to you and everyone, Viiveck, and thanks for having me on this panel. It's quite an interesting discussion. First of all, I must say that I have not seen any other subject other than sustainability that has caught on the attention of governments, industries, and public at large in such a proportion, right? I have not in the recent past witnessed anything like this. So it is a good thing. It is not that only one of these things is driving the agenda. It's sometimes only the governments, sometimes it's only the industries, and sometimes it's just the public pressure. But in case of sustainability as a topic that we have today, I see that more or less all stakeholders are quite excited about it. That is point number one. Number two, I think we need to really simplify what does it mean? What is sustainability? And there are many definitions of it. Everybody looks at it from their own perspective. To me, and this is a personal take on it, I'm sure there are many other good definitions. It's about how do we meet our today's needs? And we have needs, right? We have needs to grow in terms of socially growing or economically growing or industrial growth, technology growth, so on and so forth. There is so much of growth. So we have to meet the needs of today in our generation. But at the same time, we should not be compromising the ability of our next generations to sort of do and fulfill their own needs. And therefore, it's a vast topic. It's not just about a particular commodity or a particular produce that we are talking about. It's a very wide subject. Now, for a company like Honeywell, and we are almost 115 plus years old company, so we've sustained for a fairly long period. Maybe we were also serving the industries which are brick and mortar industries. I'm talking about oil and gas, refining, petrochemicals. We are also serving a lot of airlines and defense and space. That's another big sector that we serve. We also do a lot of services to large buildings like airports or metro stations or malls or what have you, stadiums and stuff like that. And with the rise of e-commerce, increasingly we are supporting a lot of warehouses and supply chains, etc. So that's a broad brush of what we do. We are a technology company essentially, and therefore we serve these industries with our products and software. Now, when you look at some of the stuff that some of the panelists have also talked about, is there is a lot of emission in these industries that I just referred to: oil and gas, refining, petrochemicals, or even airlines industry. So it is incumbent upon us, it's almost a responsibility that we as a technology company serving them, that we have, is to give them an alternative. So simple examples could be, we are really pushing very hard the dialogue of using renewable aviation turbine fuel. And we have many takers nowadays. They want to switch from the conventional fuel to the aviation turbine fuel, which is going to be made out of the renewables, like the vegetation. Right. The other example is that how can we switch the fuel from the conventional fuel, which is coming from oil or even gas, natural gas, to hydrogen. And there are lots of technologies that we have where we want to switch, because when you burn hydrogen, it's basically essentially combining with oxygen and emitting water vapor. So very safe and a technology that we must all sustain. And so for the oil and gas refining petrochemicals type of industries that we serve, we are really moving quite fast, I would say, in the last couple of years on how do we take them to this new type of fuel. At the same time, the existing CO2 that they emit, or the harmful gases that they emit, how do we sequester it? Or in simple words, how do we store it away so that it doesn't harm the planet, right? So that those are big technologies that we are bringing in. And I would also, talk about all the other consumer goods industries which used a huge amount of plastic. You must have seen that. Now there is a lot of new technologies which are being developed, and we are one of the pioneers there, is how do we do the circularity for plastics usage? You use the same plastic again and again and again, right? So these are some of the things that from the technology perspective, we are driving hard. Our R&D money is going big time into this, and we will make use of this to work with the customers that we serve. Coming to the matrix and the other part that you asked in your question, how hard or how easy it is. Well, nothing is easy, obviously, but everything is possible, right? And it's a good journey to embark upon for corporates like us. I believe that the real crux and therefore the efforts need to go into making these technologies commercially viable and successful. They're available and they work in the laboratory today, and there is no doubt that they will work. But we have to scale them up. We have to create the ecosystem that will nurture it in the initial period when we are crawling. And then once we start walking and running, I think it will sustain by itself. Same thing on battery energy storage. There is so much of solar power which is coming in. How do we make sure that we make it viable? So on and so forth. So I think some of them are already coming of age. And I do think that our boards, our shareholders, and the public at large will keep companies like us on this track and help us in managing the commercial metric and also the ESG side that you talked about.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ashish. And I hear you loud and clear that it's not easy, but it's necessary. And I think it is for what we can leave behind for the future generations. And thank you. Another beautiful point you brought out, which is about ecosystem, and I'll come to Amit in a minute. And I've been saying this over the last 2 days as part of this summit, that this old adage of, it takes a village to raise a child. And I think sustainability seems to be that child, which needs all players in the ecosystem to really come together. It can't be something that any one of us can claim that we will take the flag position and we will, single-handedly kind of spearhead taking that forward. And that brings me to you, Amit, as someone who's been very actively engaged in building ecosystem around social impact, around sustainability, around ESG. What do you think it takes for us to do this? And, a lot of times people think that this is the responsibility of the government and the policymakers alone to look at sustainability because it's their role. So talk to us a little about your perspective through the Aspire work that you're doing.
Sure, Viiveck. And again, putting this in country's perspective, we have 17.5% population of the world, 3.5% GDP, but less than 1% of this pool of investments on the impact continuum is coming to India. So obviously, we are not doing everything well. Primarily, the reason is our corporations, organizations, investors are not aligned with this. There's a lot of lip service. They are just not aligned. And government has done too little. We do have an ESG report called BRSR, Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, which SEBI, forces the top 500 companies to publish. The statements hide more than they tell, and they really do not make any sense to investors. Think of it this way: NASDAQ is able to enforce this with 30 parameters. London Stock Exchange with 35. India has 131 questions, including essay-type questions. The only exchange in the world where such a thing happens. So obviously, we're not going to get anything measurable, comparable, which is required to really win in this impact movement. I think the opportunity for India here is that as we, whether it's corporations or investors, embrace the impact movement, we have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to solve the intractable problems of social inequities, poverty, global warming, because that's what these metrics are supposed to do. Start a journey, company by company. So because there wasn't enough happening, one of the things we did was we brought together 200 leaders under an Impact Future project last year. And we said, look, this DNA change for corporations is going to take time. Let's start telling them what are these investment ideas they can pursue to gradually change their DNA and to become competitive in this impact era. We have started publishing the reports. Yesterday, we released our BFSI Financial Inclusion FinTech report. End of the month, we're going to have our education skills. And then, Purnima is working with us on agriculture, food, and food processing. So we have about 10 different sectors. But today, India is not competitive. Our top 35 listed companies have just the environment cost is $200 billion. Okay, this is a Harvard Business School, which is 3 times their net profits. Okay, so if they had to do impact accounting today, our biggest companies will be unprofitable. Reliance has $4.5 billion of net profit, $7.5 billion of just environment costs. Even Reliance will not be profitable in an era of impact capitalism. And this is beginning to hurt around the world. Just to give it, the Dutch court recently forced Shell to lower its net zero target. P&G shareholders made sure they took their diapers, Pampers off the market because they were sourcing paper unethically, which was leading to deforestation. ExxonMobil was just sued by the New York courts saying that you've been fooling investors and shareholders by misreporting on the climate dangers. So right now, as we live this movement, this is coming to haunt people. In agri-food, Danone CEO just lost Emmanuel Faber, a poster child, of the impact movement. He was trying to make his company a 20 billion euro company, a B Corp. He lost his job because compared with his nearest rival, Nestle, they were unable to match up on sustainability. So those who think this is far away, a concept that will come in its own time, they should start worrying that when it comes, it's going to have a cost. So I think it'll hoover well for all entrepreneurs who are starting off their businesses to don't wait for regulations and government, self-identify where they will be on this continuum, and start, reporting, measuring those metrics, which allow them to be future ready. The last thing I will say, I think people need to realize that the idea of impact is going to get monetized through impact-weighted profits sooner or later. There are half a dozen academics around the world almost in a race for a Nobel Prize. Just like mankind learned how to measure risk in the middle of last century, we're learning how to measure impact in a way it's comparable like an earning per share. And some of the best models are those which are going to allow converting annually in published statements for every corporation or investor, their P&L balance sheet, financial P&L balance sheet into an impact-weighted P&L balance sheet. So if a company is doing good for people or planet, their net profit get bumped up through this calculation. Or if their emissions and effluents are bad, they are carbon negative, water negative, waste, their profits get bumped down. The day, and that day is not far away, we may be 2, 3, 4 years away, that the world and markets have access to companies impact-weighted earning per share. That is what they are going to value. So fortunes will be, reset. The markets are going to get reset. But because it's a small, journey which is happening, almost at a glacial pace, people are not noticing it. It's been going on for 20 years. So I think, in India, we really do need to do more. We have, as Aspire Impact, built 300 standards. We're the first impact rating company, in the world. We give, a platinum, gold, silver, green standard. We are, we're doing investors like, Avishkar. We are, doing impact assessment for corporations like INI Farms and NSDLs and Ether Energies and Career Wheels, all sectors. And I think that, every company should start thinking about, let me not wait for government to enforce this on me. Let me voluntarily do this, make a statement, and understand where I'm on this continuum and how can I be future ready. But this has to happen, and I've, having run a multilateral and spoken with, statesmen around the world, it's not about if it'll happen, how quickly will the world agree on overall standards and start enforcing this. But the cost of not doing this is already visible and companies are paying this. And I think TIE is a great forum for you to tell Indian entrepreneurs, this is our chance to win the impact movement around the world. We are ground zero for poverty. We've got every environmental, social challenge that exists in the world. Our companies, because they are solving this, can be in the forefront of calling themselves impact enterprises or sustainable enterprises or responsible. Let's do that.
Thank you very much, Amit. And it's a very key message that, when we are building our organizations, it's very important that we make this mainstream. We make this at the core, because like you said, whether we like it or not, it's coming and it's going to come and it's going to hit hard, both from the financial point of view, but also from the larger, sustainability for the planet point of view. So thank you. And I think a lot of work to be done. So for all the listeners who are thinking about or already at the early stage of their enterprise, now is the time to start building this into that and start putting in measures which are working towards measuring impact, bringing in sustainability and creating models which you can talk to people about. With that, I'll come to you, Purnima. And, while we looked at the macro picture and Amit kind of posted that beautifully for us, if we were to kind of for a minute go down to the micro level, and you in your interactions of setting up INI Farms deal with shareholders, investors, all stakeholders, what's that journey been? At the ground level, what is sustainability meaning to all of these people? How is it making a difference? Because we understand at your organization, you're doing it. We understand at macro level, it's beginning to happen. But the key is in that middle. So tell us a little about your experience there.
Sure, Viiveck. It's an absolute delight to listen to Amit and the way he's outlined what's happening across the world and how imperative it's going to be for all of us to really seriously look at sustainability, because organizations will not be able to sustain without sustainability. So Viiveck, sustainability is all about, if you want to build something sustainable, it takes much longer, right? It's not about fast and furious. And, the speed at which sustainability, if you're wanting to build sustainable organizations, it cannot happen overnight. So it's a very long drawn process and one needs to be prepared. When you look at entrepreneurship, you are looking at growing multifold year on year. That's what the world values today. But this is a very different story, right? It has to be built brick by brick. It is a lot of effort, right? So patience is extremely critical. You can't build businesses, sustainable businesses, if you are not patient. And, when we started, our first revenues were to come in after 3 years. So a business plan that we put together said, first revenue after 3 years. Were there takers at that point of time to back us? I would say yes. So like I shared earlier as well, we had Avishkar who put in the first capital into INI, right? So they valued what we were talking about, what we were wanting to build. And capital is extremely critical when you are, wanting to build something sustainable, because the business results and outcomes will not be there on the table tomorrow. So to sustain the organization, capital is important. Are the investors okay with lower returns on the capital that they've deployed? Absolutely not. Just that they come with a mindset where they're waiting they're willing to wait a little longer for the returns to come in. So I just want to call that out specifically. No impact investors is okay with lower returns. Just that their mindset is different. They have a longer horizon, so they're willing to wait with you for it to fructify, for it to mature. So that's where it is. At INI Farms, we've been extremely fortunate. We've had multiple rounds of funding, and we have a few impact investors on the cap table, right? So capital is absolutely critical. The second is about team, right? It's about shared vision. When you're wanting to build something sustainable, you have to have the right set of people who join this movement with you. Again, very proud of the fact that we have very good talent here at INI. People from IIT, IIMs who looked at this sector. Today, it's attracting lot of capital, lot of talent. But way back in 2009, Viiveck, when we started, even as professionals, when we got into this, we had our friends and family telling us, are you guys crazy? What are you wanting to do with your careers, right? But we were passionate about this. We saw value in it. And we found that a lot of people with similar, mindset joined us in our journey towards building INI Farms, which is very important. And the amount of pride, we are a great place to work certified organization, Viiveck. And the amount of pride that a supervisor or a CXO in our organization has, when he talks about INI Farms, primarily because, of course, it's an organization which is for profit, but it is an organization with a purpose. And that's what people value today. So even as individuals, right, we've been able to get like-minded, good talent, work with us right from day zero as we started on this journey. So that is the second. The third is, for all the effort that you're doing, somebody has to pay for it, right? So that brings me to our customers, our, people who eventually use the services that we've put together. And there I see a lot more awareness coming in now. Are there customers, who all customers willing to pay for sustainability? The answer is no. Are there set of customers who value sustainability? The answer is yes. It's again about how are you translating it for the customer. So, we sell in Europe where sustainability is a hygiene today. You cannot access that market if you're not sustainable. They have very stringent guidelines on you being able to access those markets, those consumers, those retail shelves, which is not the case with, say, a Middle East today. It's an evolution. There are different countries, different customers at different stages of their own life cycle as far as evolution, as far as sustainability is concerned. But I think, like everybody else has been saying, it's a movement that has started. Today, people are valuing you for the sustainable efforts that you're putting at the back end in the entire, value chain as an organization, and really, set you aside for these efforts. So that is how, that's been our experience, Viiveck, with different stakeholders. Farmers, of course, are the central piece. And for them, it's very easy, like I also called out earlier, the impact and the sustainability that we are bringing in. But for all the other stakeholders, it's an extremely important factor. And that's how, I think INI Farms has been able to differentiate itself in this whole horticulture ecosystem.
Fantastic and very encouraging, and especially for entrepreneurs who are listening into us, that again, like Ashish said earlier, it's not easy, but there is enough visibility, enough awareness, enough understanding of sustainability in, like Purnima described, in all the three key stakeholders: your investors, your employees, or people who are part of your journey, and your customers. So very good place to be in, and I think it's only going to improve as we go forward with a lot more focus coming in. And with that, Ashish, coming to you, having looked at, what Amit described a little earlier about BRSR reporting, SEBI's been mandating that. So what in your view, coming from a corporate background, what in your view is India Incorporated or the whole entrepreneurial catalyst going to do towards this whole journey towards ESG, impact reporting, and the sustainability? What is your view on the contribution that India Inc. and entrepreneurial ecosystem can make?
Sure, Viiveck. I'm also going to build on a couple of points that I noted from what Purnima mentioned, right? Because I think I believe in them. I'm an optimist, and so I believe that this journey is already started. The train has left the station, whether people believe it or not. It is beginning to happen, right? At the same time, it is important to understand that it is an evolution and not a revolution, right? And that's the point that Purnima made. And history tells us that revolutions are very destructive, and there is a bloodbath there. I don't think that's always the right thing to do. Evolutions are more sustainable, and therefore the second point that Purnima made, and I want to endorse upon it, is the patience. And unless you have the right balance between the speed and the patience, we may stand to lose. I think we all talked about Europe being ahead of the rest of the world in terms of embracing sustainability. But when you get into the nitty-gritties, the cost of goods has slowly gotten bumped up because, everybody has to now pay for that sustainability. And I think, therefore, rather than pushing the pendulum from one side to the other side very quickly, it may not be the solution, and therefore we have to balance, right? So that's my limited point. The second thing that you asked about is VRSA, right? The mandate that has come from SEBI. I think it's a great start. It was not there earlier, so we are begin somewhere. We have to be constructively criticizing it rather than just slashing and burning it. Are there opportunities for improvement? Absolutely, like in any other system. Then what can we do about it? Well, first, corporates like us who fall in that top 100 category on the listed stock exchanges, we need to be honest about what we write in there, or therefore be transparent about it to our share owners and the government and public at large, and therefore have that dialogue started rather than just creating a document and saying, hey, you asked for it, here is a bunch of papers, you keep it in your store and never talk about it again till the next year's turn comes. I think there needs to be that dialogue, that constructive criticism that needs to start, and we can improve it from where we are today to where it needs to be. And I think, again, like I said, I'm an optimist. It is on a great path, and we need to all start working towards it.
Fantastic. And it's been wonderful. But before I close the panel, maybe Ashish, starting with you, if I was to ask you in 3 or 4 words to a parting message you think would be the keywords about building sustainable organizations, what would those few keywords be? Maybe Ashish will start with you and then go around to
Viiveck, I was losing you. I got the gist of your question.
Sorry. I think, 3 or 4 keywords that you want to leave. Yeah, you want to leave the audience with
hopefully you're able to hear me okay. I got your question. I would just say that it's a matter of survival for the brick and mortar companies that we talked about. So survival is the key word that comes to my mind right now. The second one is, if we want to attract new talent, and if we don't have an agenda around sustainability, I don't think you will be able to employ the greatest of the people that you would need to sustain your business, right? And the third thing is, like I said, sustainability is all about passing on to to our posterity, and that is the larger good that everybody wants to sort of participate in that mission, and that's why it's an important thing for me.
Okay, thank you, Ashish. Purnima, just the keywords. 2, 1, 2, 3, whatever you think.
Okay, so I'll just leave with one thought, which is, for all the entrepreneurs on this forum today, that have sustainability as a part of your business model itself. Keep that at the center of the business that you're wanting to build.
And over to you, Amit, for the last word or few words.
Again, I think I'll focus it for the entrepreneurs that TIE attracts, that it is possible to design, build, scale, and manage impact alongside the growth of your business. And you should start doing it while you are still young, because it's very hard to turn the ship, mid-sea.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amit. And thank you to all three of you, Ashish, Purnima, and Amit, to join us today and share some really insightful thoughts from your journeys towards building sustainable organization. And as I kind of wind this panel down, very clearly, it's not easy, but it's something that is required. The time is now, and it is very much possible. And the entire ecosystem is at a point where it is for us as entrepreneurs to really engage them and, in a way, push them to the next step. And I think the ecosystem is ready. All it needs is for us to be the pallbearers, to be the people who will push this agenda. And like Ashish said, it is ultimately a matter of survival. If we don't do it, I think our survival is at stake. So we should all be working towards that. And I'm sure a lot of you have taken a lot of insightful thoughts from the three panelists today and will incorporate them into your business. With that, I'd like to thank all three of you, Ashish, Purnima, and Amit, for joining us on behalf of TIE and the TIE Sustainability Summit to share your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And with that, having heard three different perspectives, we will now move on to listening from one of the leading entrepreneurs who's now gone on to become a lot more than just an entrepreneur, who's helping not just entrepreneurs, but the whole ecosystem, not just in the city of Hyderabad, but across the country, and very recently, even outside of the country. With that, I would like to invite Mr. Suresh Chukkapalli to join us for the keynote session that he's going to deliver today around building sustainable organizations. Welcome, Mr. Suresh, and please do join us. And I will just take a minute to speak a few lines in your introduction before handing over the stage to you. I'd like to have Suresh join us on the screen at this point. Suresh is the Chairman Emeritus for the Phoenix Group, one of the largest real estate development firms from the time the state was undivided. From then, in the undivided state of Andhra Pradesh, continues to work in the both states and is doing a lot of work around education, and is also the Honorary Counsel General for South Korea, and he's been involved in doing a lot of philanthropy, a lot of development work in terms of building organizations, helping others, whether in the space of education or healthcare or other areas. And we will hear from him about his perspective around building sustainable organizations. So Suresh, welcome, and over to you, and would love to hear from you about this topic.
Thank you, Viiveck, and I'm extremely happy to be a part of this panel. It was wonderful to hear Ms. Purnima, Mr. Ashish, and Mr. Amit. There are a lot of takeaways what I have understood from the conversations or the message what they've given. Definitely, I feel what Mr. Amit had said about the large corporates, maybe 30 large corporates which are in this country, and how they are impacting the environment and sustainability of this part of the world. Even if those 30 people focus and reduce maybe 10%, 20% of what they can on the environment sustainability, I think we would have reached our initial goals. That having said, I feel education on sustainability from the primary age is very, very important for us. Today, what is happening is sustainability has become a taboo in our society. What we understand is, if we want to do something sustainable, it is too expensive. I am not very sure why this is expensive. Right from the beginning of preparing a report for sustainability, the consultants, take a huge, consultancy piece. Then when we go in for people who are involved in the sustainable mechanisms, like, water treatment plants or environment or pollution, all these things are very, very expensive now. You go in for a pollution consultant. The consultant itself takes a lot of money, and it is so difficult to get a pollution control approval for the good you want to do in the society. Still, you need to go through a number of stages where you will be asked so much money to get it approved, even if it is within the norms. So the first impact is that my understanding is we don't have proper prescribed pollution or sustainable goals or norms. Everyone interprets in their own way, and everyone does whatever, and sidelining everything. They get their permissions and they go ahead. Today, for example, if some of you who know about Hyderabad, our Hussain Sagar Lake is being pushed with all the chemical waste which is from the pharma industry. And even being in Hyderabad for so many years, I was not able to understand why the pharma industry's pollutant cannot be diverted to some other area or get it processed. Our people have spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of efforts, but still, you go near the Hussain Sagar Lake, we get all the smells. So my important aspect in this is that, first, the government, second, the industry, third, the people. All three of them have to understand this is not just for the eyewash of someone, but it is for the survival of the humanity. So unless we realize that, and where do we get this impact from? Basic education. It could be in the company, where we talk about basic environmental issues or sustainable issues within the employees of the company. It could be starting from the attender to everyone, to the driver, to the senior manager. And we don't need to push them with huge technical issues. Just give them simple facts as to how we can help the sustainability. So apart from the education, what we need to give these people, and I think TAI or some other organization or Mr. Amit's organization or someone can really prepare a simple blueprint, which can be understood by common man. Then I think we can get into the system of how to evolve from this problem. The other thing is, majority of the sustainable equipment or the machines or whatever we want to implement, these are too expensive. So we need entrepreneurs who can come out with low-cost, sustainable models, where maybe Mr. Ashish can throw a light on that. It could be social entrepreneurship where the sustainable equipment, sustainable machines or technologies, including blockchain and other things, can become easily accessible for common people. Like, for example, if Ms. Purnima talks about agriculture and horticulture, I'm also one of a passionate person, and I would like to offline take Purnima's help on agriculture and horticulture, because I have a large piece of land in the outskirts of Hyderabad. And I wanted to do agriculture, and every time I start doing something and I lose money, but I don't know what to do. Last week we had huge rains and the entire crops are gone. So how do we do sustainable, eco-friendly horticulture or agriculture without burning the pocket of the farmer or the entrepreneur? So these things, unless we are able to bring some kind of because India is a very low cost ecosystem, so we can't compare it with Europe or Netherlands or any other country where per hour they just charge thousands of pounds and or euros, and then they also sell the produce at the same cost. But India, for everything we compromise. Of course, our salaries are also low, so our people also cannot afford to buy at such high costs. So we need to see how sustainability happens. Today, the land costs around Hyderabad or in India, you can't get any land which is cheaper. Not anymore. So with the land cost being so high, how do you get into agriculture? And if you're not able to produce some product which can be sold and at least, you break even. Otherwise, how will you even feed the people of this country? So you cannot say that we are still a third world country, we can't afford. We have to bring in agriculture reforms where the sustainability is taken care, eco-friendliness is taken care, chemicals are not used. We use the basic cow urine, cow dung, and all these fertilizers, which are not chemicals. So with all these things, are we really able to sustain? And I have seen many companies which say that they are organic foods. And if you go into the shelf of any superstore, you cannot afford to buy them. So what is the difference between the organic and regular food? Definitely, they have done something better than the regular food, but you don't need to make it so expensive for people to use them. So unless it is affordable for not even a common man, even for you and me, if we are supposed to buy rice for about 1,000 rupees a kg or vegetables at a very high cost. See, I can understand the impact of organic and inorganic is maybe 10% or 15% higher, but here these people are marketing at 300% higher. So we need to bring more social entrepreneurs like Purnima and see that the affordability of this goes well into the market, and people embrace the affordability and the organic or chemical free products. So I think that is where we, like you said, in 3 years only you're able to break even, right? So maybe if we're able to bring down the cost, it will become 6 years. But still, if we are looking at a long term, so we need to bring this to a common man's house, whether it's vegetables, whether rice, wheat, whatever. So education and agriculture are two very important aspects of our sustainability. In addition to the large corporates trying to bring down their emissions and become carbon neutral or whatever. So today, we have been seeing many people coming out with solar power, and the solar power costs have come down so much. Today at 2 rupees 60 paise we are able to get solar power. But the problem with solar power is government, in spite of getting solar power at 2 rupees 60 paise, they still want to sell the power at 7 rupees or 8 rupees to the corporates. And they don't allow the corporates to buy directly from the solar energy producers because of their inefficiency of losses, transmission losses and other inefficiencies. They want to put the burden on people or the end user. And who's the end user? End user is a common man. So what we need to understand is government should change their policies. See, at one hand, government says we're giving free power to farmers, free power to ordinary citizens, but that too only to certain extent. So unless government changes the policies and allow anyone to wield the power to any company, and the moment I am able to give to Honeywell at 2 rupees 60 paise or even 3 rupees power, you just see what is the impact Honeywell will have on their own finances. The moment they were able to save money, they can use that money for improving their efficiency, improving their sustainability, improving their carbon emissions. So government has to realize that using coal, using all those things are going to be difficult day by day. So you encourage solar and you encourage power at a cheaper cost. And today we are hearing that hydrogen is going to come in a big way in terms of energy conservation and all those things. So there are many eco-friendly things which are coming up, and I personally feel we need to, as an organization, we need to put some impact on the government, that certain things have to be rationalized. The pollution norms have to be rationalized. It has to be simplified. The corruption at that level should be almost zero, because the moment you allow an industry which is polluting, but for certain reason you are giving them permission, then your entire this thing is defeated. And in addition to that, green cover is something which is very, very important for us. Forestation across the country in a large way. Now we are using drones for seeding. So all our mountains, all our forest areas, all our bald patches, they can be used. Drones can be used, and we can put more seeds into it. And then, in addition to that, even for spraying, today what is happening is the farm labor who are spraying the chemicals or whatever, pesticides or something, they are all dying, their lungs are getting affected. But if you use the drones, they are more effective, they're cost effective. Today, people are now coming out with low cost drone spraying technologies. So I think, we are reaching certain point where we can, bring in a change in the environment. But a lot need to be done by government. A lot need to be done by people like us who are entrepreneurs, and we need to bring in low-cost technologies which can help the environment. And companies like Honeywell, all of them, they can really make an impact by helping the blockchain and all these sustainability issues. So I think it's a momentum which has to be started now, and I think we need to sustain this momentum and bring in a lot of seminars, workshops, and helping entrepreneurs in understanding better. And for this, I have asked Terry Institute of Advanced Studies also to go in a big way to run a campaign across the country. So I think, Viiveck, my personal take is that, collectively we should work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much, Suresh. That was wonderful to hear from you on your thoughts around building sustainable organizations, and very clearly say loud and clear that make it simple, make it easy. It needs to be operationalized. We need to see how do we make it idiot proof so that it's easy for people to do. And then affordability is a key aspect. So all entrepreneurs who listen to Suresh and to the panel before that, I think the opportunity lies in solutions which we need to do, but how do we make them affordable? How do we make them easy? How do we build business models which are building systems at a low cost? And I think traceability is becoming a very, very important aspect. And at the end, nothing can happen unless and until we get the government support from a policy standpoint. So thank you very much, Suresh, for highlighting and bringing that out. And I take this opportunity for you to join us and spend an hour with us to really bring to our audience knowledge through the panel and through your keynote today about building sustainable organizations. And I hope this has given you the optimism that the panel pointed out and Suresh talked about, and also told you that it's not going to be easy. So what are the things you should focus on? What are the things that are really going to make a difference? And how is the ecosystem that is available and ready, and it's for you to tap into to build sustainable organizations. So thank you very much to all of you in the panel, and thank you for all of you who joined us to listen to us. And with this, we come to the end of our first.
Before leaving, I think
yes,
I
Suresh.
need to get connected to Purnima sometime.
I will do that,
to take her help in my farming.
I will do that, Suresh. I will connect you and Purnima offline. And to all the audience, thank you very much for joining us for the first half session today. With this, we wind up for the morning, and we will be back at 5 o'clock. And there are some outstanding sessions lined up in the evening. So do join us to listen about the 1 billion Dharavi's economy, which is the epitome of courage and entrepreneurship. We have a session on creating sustainable water solutions with community engagement being the key, and many, many more. These will start at 5 p.m. This evening. So do join us at that time. And thank you very much, and continue to enjoy the Thai Sustainability Summit, the world's largest summit around sustainability. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.